Aerial shot of the Sahara. In the heart of the Sahara, 1,500 tons of uranium lie buried beneath the dust of Arlit, Niger, worth nearly $300 million. Enough to power cities, light continents, yet it sits untouched. Not because of war. Not because of drought. But because of a signature, signed 4,000 kilometers away, in a climate-controlled courtroom in Washington, D.C. On September 23, 2025, the International Center for Settlement of Investment Disputes, a World Bank tribunal, ordered Niger not to sell or move a single grain of uranium from the Samiyar mine. A sovereign nation was told. You own the soil, but not what lies beneath it. News clips and protests across West Africa. Across the Sahel, the news hit like a sandstorm. In Burkina Faso, one voice rose above the noise, Ibrahim Traoré, the soldier-turned-statesman. To him, this wasn't just a legal case, it was a modern-day colonization wrapped in paperwork. They say Niger broke the law, he declared. I say the law broke Africa. For over half a century, France's Orano company controlled the Samiyar mine, drawing uranium that powered the lights of Paris, while the people of Arlit lived in darkness. Niger's uranium fueled 15% of France's nuclear reactors. Yet 90% of Arlit's citizens still live without electricity. When Niger's new government nationalized the mine in June 2025, it was hailed as the second independence. For the first time, a Sahel nation had said no to foreign extraction. But the victory was brief. Just 3 months later, a tribunal in Washington froze the uranium, 1,500 tons of yellow ore sealed under the desert sun. Orano applauded the rule of law. Niger called it economic warfare. Visuals of courtroom corridors, contracts, and gavels. Where once soldiers fought for freedom, now lawyers write the new battles. Where once flags marked sovereignty, now contracts define it. And in this new kind of war, the weapon isn't the gun. It's the legal document. The ICSID ruling also demanded the release of a detained corporate representative. Western media called it justice. But to many Africans, it sounded like déjà vu, another chapter in a long story of control disguised as legality. In Arlit, there's no courtroom, no press release. Only dust, hunger, and silence. The uranium that once promised progress now sits behind fences, glowing with irony. The metal that lights Europe can't light a single school in Niger. When the tribunal's decision came, salaries stopped. Fuel prices spiked. To the people, it wasn't provisional measures. It was punishment. Who protects us, a miner asked, when the contracts fail us? Ibrahim Traoré addressing a crowd. Standing beneath a cracked portrait of Thomas Sankara, Traoré's words echoed through the Sahel. They used chains. Then they used debt. Now they use law. But law without justice is just another weapon. Crowds erupted across Ouagadougou, Bamako, and Niamey. Homemade signs read. Uranium. For our schools, not their reactors. No tribunal decides our destiny. For the first time, the alliance of Sahel states, Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, spoke as one. An attack on one is an attack on all, meetings, maps, and engineers sketching plans. From this defiance was born a new idea, energy sovereignty. Traoré proposed a Sahel industrial fund to reinvest profits into African industries. Mali began auditing every foreign mining deal. Niger pledged to build its own uranium refinery once the legal freeze ended. It was more than rebellion, it was reconstruction. This is not about uranium, Traoré said. It's about dignity, the right to turn sweat into sovereignty. U.S. Capitol and World Bank HQ. Meanwhile, in Washington, the tribunal's halls remain pristine, marble, polished, and far from the desert. Since its founding in 1966, ICSID has heard 800-plus cases. Less than 5% were filed by African nations, yet 1/3 of respondents were African states. The rich sue. The poor defend. And the outcome too often echoes the same hierarchy. A U.S. analyst wrote, "You can't build partnerships on perpetual lawsuits." But in Paris, silence spoke louder than words. Even some French diplomats admitted, defending profit against poverty is becoming morally unbearable. Return to Arlet, hope reborn. Back in Arlet, young miners are returning to work under new management. They earn little, but they work for themselves. In Burkina Faso, small factories now assemble solar components. In Mali, students debate resource sovereignty in classrooms. Across the Sahel, a quiet transformation begins, from dependence to dignity. Sunrise over the Sahara. No court order can freeze an idea whose time has come. They may freeze uranium, but they cannot freeze unity. In July 2024, the Sahel Alliance signed a pact. We shall borrow from ourselves before we beg from others. A simple line, but a seismic shift. Across Africa, murals of Traoré rise beside those of Sankara and Nkrumah. To many, he's not a hero, he's a symbol. A symbol of a continent tired of waiting for permission to rise. They call us poor, Traoré once said. But the poorest man is he who sells his pride for comfort. Today, that pride has returned, not in speeches, but in silence turned into strength. Because sovereignty is not a slogan. It's a school that stays open when aid stops. It's a field that feeds itself. It's a continent that refuses to be defined by its contracts. And as the sun rises once more over the Sahel, one truth glows brighter than uranium. Africa will trade, not beg. Africa will rise, not wait. The desert has waited long enough.